a sluggo, slant and go.
Casey the Beef Cregan. It's always interesting working this board. You know, before the show, we were talking about StreamYard and how you're working an account now. And I always screw it up. I never feel comfortable when that music starts, if I can get the music to start. But it's Wednesday, and we're going into a holiday weekend. So I'm excited to talk to you tonight about whatever it is we're going to talk about, because the show's named No Agenda. And folks, the last time we named the show No Agenda, we actually had an agenda, but tonight we don't have any agenda. We have some
Amazing
notes.
what happens. Amazing what happens when you're busy, you know?
Well, yeah, when you got a job and 17 projects going on at the same time. And I thank you, Casey, because you freed me from having to worry about actually doing the agenda. You said, we don't need one. Let's roll. We're 92 shows in. Who the heck needs an agenda?
Well, a good partner would probably say, you know what, Marty? You've done 91 previously. Let me do this one. But when you get a good partner, let me know.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. No, well, you know, everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, and agendas are not one of your strengths, Casey.
No, they're not. You should see my chop and beef agendas that come up with 5 minutes before the show.
Well, I've heard your chop and beef agenda, so I don't know. I don't know if there's much difference, but and it's a long weekend, and both my wife coming up, and both my wife and I are looking forward to it. It's been a really wild and crazy days and weeks for her. She's had it worse than me at work, and most of the times I can skate through and write an article, but man, I had three projects go into crapper last Friday afternoon, and I've pulled one out and another one's still circling. And I think the third one's probably flushed. So, you know, I'm batting a 333. So, you know,
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, Hall of Famer. I'll when it comes evaluation time, I'll tell my boss that. I brought one of those 3 projects home. I'm a Hall of Famer. What's my raise? Okay, see, I had some fun on Twitter last night, talking with the Clemson people who were looking for the baseball game on the ACC network. Now, you have all network, and you've got a tournament going. You would think maybe you would place that tournament on said network, but no, we've got not even the live Boston College spring game, the replay of the Boston College spring game on the ACC network, while the baseball game was blacked out in some areas. I think one person was in the Atlanta area. I'm not sure. I got it here in Texas, of course, where all the Clemson fans are, right? I got it here in Texas. Some people are blacked out. It's just lunacy and idiotic that you have a network, and I know it's not at it's at a, you know, it's not at a on the campus anywhere. So we've heard that excuse. But still, the SEC's blasting theirs out all day long. And on the ACC, we're watching the Boston College spring game, trying to find the Clemson baseball game. And when we eventually found it, we were really sad. We'll get to that in a minute. But ACC Network.
What an embarrassment. It literally is an embarrassment to not have one of your prized events. And here's why it's an embarrassment, too. Because 2 weeks ago, now, yes, there's less teams, but 2 weeks ago, they had the ACC lacrosse tournament live. So they're lacrosse, another sport with only 4 teams in the ACC. And that tournament was held live on the ACC network. But we can't get baseball, where you have 12 teams playing, 14 teams in the conference, but you have 12 teams playing, and everyone will watch. And I mean everyone, you know, it'll get numbers because Clemson fans will watch their game. North Carolina fans will probably watch their game. I mean, it's an embarrassment. They had rowing, the ACC rowing championship on as well, at least here where I am in South Carolina. So, which is great. Congrats to them. But how do you not have one of your premier sports it's probably the premier sport in the spring, especially in the South, and you can't even have it on the ACC network here. I've been reading these things, and I'm almost done with this thought, but I've been reading these things about the ACC network and your stuff on Rubbing the Rock about the financial problems that the ACC is going to run into down the line. And I just kind of brush it off because I'm like, oh, I'm not smart enough, and the people way smarter than me are going to figure this piece out. But then something like this happens, and it's like, this may really, truly be going in the crapper.
And don't take this the wrong way, but I don't know if anybody at the ACC network is smarter than you. I'm not sure how you can take that the wrong way, Casey. But
it's funny because I have a master's in sports management, so maybe I am. Maybe I should. Maybe they should hire me. I don't know.
Well, I just marvel at and it's not rocket science, right? It's just kind of simplistic. We have this tournament. The winner gets an automatic bid. We've got some. And I don't know why they didn't do it, if it's money or location or whatever, but there should be no excuses for it. Each team, yes, they're way behind the SEC and the Big Ten, but they're still raking in millions of dollars, right? I mean, 38 million or something last year per team. I don't know. Everybody give $1 million and let's broadcast the baseball games. The tournament. It is beyond me the decisions. I would say this in some of those articles on Run the Rock, on Twitter, wherever else. It just, you can look at it, look at the product when it is on TV, and look at the SEC network or the Longhorn network, for that matter, also an ESPN product. And you can see the difference in the quality of the programming and the announcers. Though someone that we've talked about, the SEC baseball announcers are kind of shaky at times, especially the South Carolina ones. But overall, in general, the product is much better on those other two networks than the ACC network. It's an embarrassment. It's laughable, right? It's laughable that is what is representing the conference that we think is going to I don't, is going to move forward and challenge the SEC. What a joke. What a joke.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you said something funny that just kind of piqued my ears a minute ago about location. Charlotte is basically the mecca of the ACC.
They couldn't get in a car. Maybe gas is too high. They couldn't get in a car.
Yeah, you can't get in a car. It blacked out on me for a second. So yeah, either me or my system. But I mean, even though there's no brick and mortar there, that's where everything is. There's an ACC hub or an ESPN hub in Charlotte. Like, they could have thrown something together, and it's a big enough ballpark. Yes, it's a minor league ballpark, but I'm sure they could have had some semblance of decent coverage for that game. There he is.
No doubt. Jeff Browder, Clemson Hype House is in the house, fellas. ACC Network shows women lacrosse matches from 2014 during the August run-up for football season to pump up the Virginia fans. That is hilarious, Hype House. That is hilarious.
I was going to say Maryland, too, but Maryland isn't in the ACC anymore.
Yesterday was a Boston College spring football replay. Yeah, I guess they couldn't afford the gas to get in the car and drive to, the stadium. It just amazes me. And also, when Clemson has those games, now JP had told me when they play at the neutral site, Carolina, it is the minor league team's crew that does the works the cameras, which makes sense. We're looking at first base when the ball's hit to deep left field, right? First, it's a double off the wall and left, and the first baseman scratching his butt because he's not involved in the play, but that's what we're watching. It's just I mean, it's just typical. But anyway, I don't want to spend all day griping, but I could. Um, when Clemson has again reached 4 commitments, Brendan Strozier from cornerback from Alpharetta, Georgia, Alpharetta High, I believe. Depending on where you read, 3-4 star. I saw he's in the mid 300s, but he has some good offers. Selected Clemson, so Clemson is back to 4 recruits. I don't know much about the guy. All I know is that he is tall. He's 6'2" for a corner, just what Clemson has been in the recent years. 6'2", 175 pounds. Needs to put on a few pounds before he's ready to play. Do you know anything about Mr. Strozier?
Yeah, I like where he's from. I like the fact that he comes from an area where AJ Terrell was from. I do like his offers. He has Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Florida, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Iowa State, Kansas State, Kentucky, Louisville, Memphis, Minnesota, Missouri, Tennessee, UCF. Like, he's got some big time offers there. So I know 247, 24/7 has him as a 3-star. I think Rivals has him as a 4. It fills a need. The kid wants to come. It was a little bit surprising for somebody that's kind of fringe recruiting, as I am. Have not watched much of him, but I'm excited to have a guy of that caliber that wants to come play at Clemson.
Yeah, JP said it was a surprise to him too. He said he was lucky. He had a shell written for him. Said he was leaving. I can't remember. I think he was leaving the stadium baseball game or something Friday night. So he's leaving the stadium, and the kid committed, and Clemson has number 4 again. And it may be temporary, right? As we talked about with Nathaniel Joseph out of Miami, but that seems to have died down. I haven't heard anything about that this week, but not a lot going on in Clemson now, but not this weekend, but it's next weekend, right? The big weekend on Clemson campus, June the 3rd through the 5th. So a big recruiting weekend. So either next weekend, if we have this show, or the following weekend for sure, we'll be talking a little recruiting. Maybe we need to schedule up JP Priester again, see if he's available. He said whenever, but might get busy around that time, and that might not be whenever. Yeah,
if we ask him every week, he might say no at one point.
No doubt. Hey, Casey, I haven't asked you today. I've been so busy with my actual job that pays some bills.
What?
I hear there's a softball game coming up. I don't know where you are in your writing of the preview. And I don't care as long as you can talk about it right now in front of the 4 people that are watching.
Yeah, big game. Clemson won their regional last weekend for the first time in their long, illustrious 3-year history, 2.5-year history, if you will. Big series. They're ranked 10th overall. Actually, I saw updated rankings. Clemson is at 8th, and the Oklahoma State Cowgirls are at 5. But officially, this is the 10 seed versus the 7 seed in the country. Clemson's got their work cut out for them. This is a big game. A big series starts tomorrow night, 9:00 Eastern, I believe, is the time on that one. It's 9:00 again, game 2. For those that don't understand the super regional, and there are those of you that are out there that have reached out to me and said they didn't quite understand. It's a lot like baseball. So they go from the double elimination tournament, four teams in the regional, to 2 teams in the super regional. It's a best of 3 series. So it's the first one to win 2 games goes to the College World Series, which is in Oklahoma City. And we all know Oklahoma's really good. Oklahoma State's very good too. Oklahoma State beat Oklahoma one time, but still beat Oklahoma. And that's a big deal. I think anybody that beats Oklahoma can hang their hat on that win. Hello, Robbie Posey from Greenville. That guy's a statewide traveler. Appreciate you. Yeah, they have some great bats. They have girls. I keep saying guys. They have 3 of them with multi or double-digit home runs, but top to bottom, they all swing it well. Their leading hitter is Caitlin Carr-Weil. She's hitting 361. She's got 7 home runs. It's a good squad. They got a really good pitcher. Kelly Maxwell, 1.22 ERA. Opponents are hitting 144 against her. So it's gonna be an uphill climb, but Clemson's got some great talent too. Millie Thompson is hitting her stride. Good Lord, she's been fantastic. the last 2 outings that she's had. And of course, we have Kegel. Logaleo is the shortstop. She's on fire right now at the plate. It's going to be fun. It starts tomorrow night. So take your naps because it's going to be late here on the East Coast.
No doubt. We were teasing Nelson earlier in the week. You and I, or at least I was, about the 9 p.m. Start time. He's going to have to take a nap. And I was giving our newest Rubbing the Rock contributor, Susan, a hard time because she answered the poll last week of what was the best time zone to be in to watch sports. She said Eastern, of course, and I said Central because, on Saturday, those games start at 11 o'clock in the morning here, right? The noon games start at 11 here, and everything's over an hour earlier. I wasn't worried about the start time. I'm worried about the finish time. And this is one of those examples where Central is better than Eastern. California still might have us beat, but it's better than Eastern when those games end. When you're 1 o'clock games, it's only midnight here. So this happens to be one of those scenarios where it's better to be Central time. And Casey, given Oklahoma State's in a super regional and Oklahoma is just a juggernaut of crushing people. Hey, Ryan. Oklahoma's just a juggernaut. What the heck are they growing? I know not all the girls are from Oklahoma, but I would guess a fair amount of them are. I know Oklahoma has girls from Hawaii and everywhere else in the world. They're kind of like the Alabama of football, right? I wonder what they're growing in Oklahoma that turns these girls into dominant softball players.
I don't know what it is now, but I remember way back, actually, we're going probably 2005. The University of Florida had the USA national team coach. Now, the national team coach can coach in college, or I don't think they coach in their pro league. So I think sometimes that's a draw. I know back when the years that I'm talking, it was very popular for girls to go want to play to kind of showcase themselves. They thinking maybe that they could go play for their country as well, because that tends to be the pinnacle of that sport. That coach then moved on to South Florida, and the success did not follow him there. But maybe that's it. I don't know enough about the sport, unfortunately, to know who the coach is at Oklahoma, but they are the Alabama of softball. They just reload every year, and they're getting the best players.
Yeah. And they're just steamrolling people. When the super regional lineups, or what do you call it, matchups came out, I asked you and Nelson, I said, has anybody said last rights over UCF? Because they're about to get totally blasted out of the playoff. But
James Madison took a game from them last year, so you never know. But I don't know anything about UCF's pitching. If UCF has a pitcher like James Madison did last year, maybe you get a steal one, but Oklahoma's too good.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. Yeah, I could see stealing one, but hard to believe they can win 2 out of 3. And Ryan wants your hat. Is that what I'm hearing?
He said he wanted me to show you my hat because it was his choice for me to wear the New York Ranger hat tonight.
Good choice, Ryan. Good choice. Well, no matter what, the softball team's had a really good year, especially with the way baseball's going, the roller coaster, as you said. We're going to talk about it in a minute. But they've had a really, really good year. It seems to be a little different than last year. They don't seem to be the powerhouse or that they were last year, and Kegel hasn't had the season she had last year, or maybe my mind's been distracted somewhere else. It seems the other day she hit a home run. That's the first one I can remember in a while. It seems like some other folks were picking up for her during the season, but hopefully. And you said, I watched some last weekend. Millie Thompson, she looks intimidating on the mound. Now it's just me, but she looks intimidating. I'm an old man, so she intimidates. 20-year-old girl intimidates me, but I can imagine being up there facing her. But hopefully, her and Kegel, I assume they're going to be the pitchers of mainly the main pitchers this weekend. Nelson apparently is not around to tell us anything different, and there's Kevron checking in. Sorry,
hey, Kevron.
Good to see you, Kevron.
Yeah, I do think I think we're kind of being a little bit hard on Valerie Cagle because she's had a phenomenal year, but I think last year was just so head and shoulders amazing that we maybe we expected her to hit 350 again and 15 home runs and
Seth
strike out
Beer,
3,000. Yeah, but her numbers are actually really good, really good this year. But again, um, they were out otherworldly last year. So
Seth Beer syndrome, right? Had such a great freshman year. The next year he comes back and bats 330 with 15 home runs. Everybody goes, "What's wrong with Seth Beer?" Really,
exactly. I mean,
he,
similar. Yeah.
he's human. That's what's wrong
The
with Seth Beer.
beautiful
Hey,
thing about Cagle is we get her back next year, unless she transfers somewhere.
yeah. Mr. Hype House, we're going to talk baseball in just a minute, but that's a good point. Softball continues to get better. Softball may replace baseball as their favorite sport of the spring. Well, it's off to a good start, that's for sure. And as we transition over to this baseball talk, Beef, what an embarrassment yesterday was. And I don't know. I'm not embarrassed by Clemson sporting events very often. I'm not the guy that, when they lose to LSU by 17 points in the national championship game when it was a 3-point game in the third quarter, I'm not the guy that says that was embarrassment. I'm kind of old school in that way. It was a loss. I mean, what the heck? Was it embarrassing? No. Was it embarrassing to lose the national championship? No. To that team? No. To that LSU team? No. But I don't know. I talked to JP after, and JP, if you're listening or whatever, jump in the comments and let me know if I'm misrepresenting what you said. I talked to him after the game last night, and he said it wasn't that they didn't have any energy, it just wasn't at the same level as some of the games he's seen during the season, which is a little surprising considering they're still playing for their lives. At least you and I feel like they're playing for their playoff lives. Maybe they think they've made it, right? Maybe they read the D1 prognostications and think they're in, and this doesn't. It seemed a little lackadaisical. Mac Anglin, UMJP have talked about this 5,347 times this year. If he's not on, it's very difficult to win. He was not on. There's some problems on the field, just not hitting when they had opportunity. The same old things. The roller coaster was headed on the down curve last night, and they've got to get it together tomorrow night because if they have another performance like that, they're not going to make the field of 64.
Well, apparently JP talked to Kendall Rogers of D1Baseball.com, who is pretty much the Joe Lunardi of college baseball in that he puts out the prognostications or projections to the NCAA tournament. And he said due to some things, the way that some dominoes fell last weekend, that Clemson probably needed a win or two to be into the NCAA tournament. Now we'll see what happens there if he's right, but those aren't good words. And I was talking to another friend of the show that will remain anonymous the other day, and he thinks that there's going to be wholesale changes if Clemson doesn't make the NCAA tournament. I know we said that there was going to be wholesale changes if they didn't make the ACC tournament, and they started playing very well at times, minus one game. But wow, if they don't make the NCAA tournament, I hate people losing their jobs, especially when it's our people. But there may be some changes. I already think that the pitching coach Andrew C. will not be back, but that's just me thinking that. But yeah, it's that game last night, and in my preview, I truly truly thought this wasn't sunshine pumping, that Clemson, the role that they were on, were going to be able to play with and beat close, but beat North Carolina. I don't think there's any shot in hell tomorrow night.
Interesting. And baseball is one of those sports that, like we talked about before, if you can get a pitcher going, whether it's softball or baseball, who knows? But who would that pitcher be? Is Jeffrey Gilbert going to go out there? He could. I mean, he certainly could. He can do it occasionally. But thinking back on the coaches, it is tough for me to think. Listen, as old as I am, Clemson has had 3 baseball coaches in my lifetime, right? There was Wilhelm, there was Leggett, and there's Monty Lee. And 3 coaches. Now, I wasn't born in 1857, but I think that's when Wilhelm took over, 58. If you think about that, in the last 64 years, they've had 3 coaches and contemplating changes. And I love Monty Lee. I told you about, I interacted with Monty a little bit. I enjoyed it. I know he is passionate. I know he wants to win. His kids went to Clemson, but I'm not opposed to a change if they don't make the tournament. Or, as we talked about before off air, if they make the tournament and go 2 in barbecue or 2 in, what was your saying?
Uno dos adios.
Yeah. How long has it been since they made a super regional? You used to regularly host those things. It used to be a rite of passage on Memorial Day weekend, and the subsequent weekend that Clemson was going to be in the tournament. And somewhere along the line, we started accepting less, and I'm ready for that to change. Whether that means go ahead.
No, I was just going to say my birthday announcement for everybody is June 4th. And for the better part of 9 years in college and a couple of years beyond college, I spent my birthday at a super regional. And most of the time it was at Clemson. So, I mean, it was something that I was absolutely used to. So it's just funny that, I mean, it's not funny, funny that it's been so long since I can remember spending my birthday in arguably my favorite Clemson sport. And I'm a Monty Lee fan. I really truly think he is the guy. But there's got to be some development on the mound. These other teams, for Virginia Tech tomorrow night, a very good chance we see Drew Hackenberg. Does that last name ring a bell? His brother Adam was a catcher for Clemson. His other brother was a quarterback at Penn State, and he's got another brother who was like a lacrosse player somewhere. So he's a true freshman. He's the ace of Virginia Tech. Yes, they're from Virginia. How does that kid not get to Clemson? I mean, I don't get it. So I know they're good recruits. I do. I know that the recruiting class coming in next year, on paper, if they keep them all, is fantastic. But they gotta develop pitching. Jeffrey Gilbert, like you said earlier, Jeffrey Gilbert could go out there and has all the stuff in the world to shut down Virginia Tech tomorrow night. Now, will he? I don't know. I think Mac Anglin has great stuff. It's a little wild at times, but you just never know. Back in the day, again, here I am. I'm going to bring my walker out. I had Benson, Koch, and Vining. I knew what I was getting every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I mean, even when they lost, it was 2-1. It's just Ryan Model was a guy. Josh Cribb was a guy. I mean, you got names, Spencer Strider, one of the latest names. I mean, you just knew what you were going to get every weekend. It's just so disheartening that there's not a guy. Even the worst teams that Clemson played had a guy on Friday night.
It just hasn't happened. They haven't developed. That was one of JP's talking points when we had him on a couple of weeks ago, is that they haven't developed. And you're right. There's no consistency. Jeffrey Gilbert could go out there and throw 5 no-hit innings and Clemson could win. Or he could give up 5 hits in the first inning and it could be over. You're right. There's no consistency on what Clemson could go 8 for 12 with runners in scoring position, or they could go 0 for 12 for running. There's been games where they only had 1 or 2 guys in scoring position the whole game. And what's disheartening to me is that after the Leggett small ball, one of the complaints against Leggett was that he recruited guys like him, right? Smaller guys who were into small ball. And South Carolina was out here crushing balls over the fence, and we're bunting, with 1 out, right? to get a guy to second with 2 outs and hope of a bloop over the infield. And it just takes more hits to score runs when you're not hitting the ball out of the park. It's not rocket science. So we went from that to Monty Lee going all in the other way on the long ball, and neither one of them's worked. But here's the difference. We've beaten South Carolina. Monty Lee's beaten South Carolina, right, for the most part, swept them this year, but he can't compete in the ACC. I mean, his excuse the other day was, not his excuse, his statement the other day said, I don't think people realize that at one point we were 2-9 in the ACC. Oh, yes, we realize you were 2-9 in the ACC, but it's like he's saying basically that shouldn't count. What should count is the last whatever they finished, 8-3 or 4 or whatever it was. You don't think people realized you were 2-9 in the ACC? You're nuts. And you don't ignore that. You don't ignore the crappy loss to Pittsburgh. You had some bad weather. It was cold in Pittsburgh. It was cold in South Bend or whatever they call it now, Notre Dame, Indiana. It was cold those 2 weekends, but you shouldn't have lost both games to Pittsburgh. There's no. I told you. I thought that's when the season went south. When they lost those 2 games to Pittsburgh, things just after that they're just playing along. It looked like they're playing out the string. Then they got it back together for a little while, as you said in your well-written article on Rubbing the Rock. The girl got you on the roller coaster, and for me, Monty Lee's the girl, right? Because she's got me on that roller coaster of up and down. You think they're good, they play like crap. You think they're crap, they play good. You don't know what to expect, as you've said so eloquently.
Yeah. I wish I didn't have to. I wish I was just talking about how Caden Grice has 22 home runs and Max Wagner set the NCAA record for home run. Like I wish, and Mac Anglin was 14-3 and was at a 3.1 ERA, and didn't walk 70 batters, and Grice didn't strike out 89,000 times. It's just it's so funny. Again, with funny, that's my word tonight. Apparently, that we get so excited for this season, and they dangled that carrot right in front of our face for 14 straight games. Swept South Carolina, looked good doing it. Even that Northeastern team, I don't know where they ended up, but no one's talking about them anymore. That was the first loss. I remember Monty Lee saying, "Hey, these guys don't realize how to lose, so I got to teach them that. They don't like losing." And then they come and lose a whole string more games right after that, starting with the Pitt series. That one game got canceled, but everyone says they shouldn't play baseball in the North. Well, Pitt doesn't like to play in the North either when it's cold. So like people don't realize, these teams like to play. No, they don't. They don't. They're baseball players. They play in the warm spring. They don't play in the cold. So yeah, it stinks. But hopefully, I said it to you offline, and I'll say it now publicly, that if they do make the NCAA tournament, I sent you the latest projection that they were heading to Hattiesburg, Mississippi for Southern Miss,
Sir.
LSU, and McNeese State or something. And I said, well, I don't really see one of those teams that could embarrass Clemson in that. That's what I'm talking about now. And that I hate hearing myself say that, type that, whatever. Just don't get embarrassed, and because there's been way too many times. I don't remember the last time Leggett got embarrassed. I'm sure he did. But I also do fondly remember Leggett winning most of the midweek games against those similar teams, those in-state teams. It was a no-brainer who the best team in the state was when Jack Leggett was here.
I think it was 14-1 or whatever it was against Oregon, or when they played Oregon that year, or maybe it was losing to Xavier in the tournament. I don't know. I remember
he would lose a weird game like USA, Southern Alabama or something would come into a regional, and Central Connecticut came in, but some of those names on the UConn team that year were
George
playing
Springer.
in the big leagues. Yeah. So they had, you never like to lose to UConn, but if you look back at that roster,
it is funny. It is funny, right? Because there was another guy, and I don't remember his name, but he played for the Diamondbacks for a while, but he was on that roster. He was the one that actually beat Clemson in Clemson. It wasn't Springer. I don't remember his name.
Started with a P. I know exactly who you're talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Well, and if you remember, some little Old Dominion team came in 2003 or 4, and had a pitcher named Justin Verlander on the mound that Clemson beat. Clemson beat Justin Verlander that year. Future Hall of Famer Justin Verlander, by the way.
Nick Ahmed was the player on the Diamondback. Yep. Yeah. I remember him too.
Yeah, that starts with a P. Yeah. Good job, Case.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it. It's like the Z in Clemson.
Nick P. Ahmed is what I would have said. But yeah, I couldn't remember. I remember going back. Of course, Springer played with the Astros. Parker loved him. I went back and looked, and so I think he kicked our butt that year, and it was not Springer. He got a hit or two and stole some bases, but I think it was Ahmed who came up with the big hit.
Matt Barnes was him too.
Oh,
played for the
okay.
Red Sox. Scott Oberg was on that team as well. So they have 5. They actually have 6 major leaguers
That's a pretty good ball team right there,
that were.
as Clemson saw. Yep. All right, Beef. Holiday weekend. We're going to keep it short and sweet tonight. But we appreciate everybody who checked in. All you guys, we appreciate you. We're going to probably be back next week. We figure it out as we go. I mean, we're going with no agenda tonight. We're rocking and rolling. But we appreciate you joining. And next couple of weeks, you may want to tune in because Clemson's got that big recruiting weekend coming up. Beef and I will probably talk about it. We'll see if we can get JP Priester on to really somebody who knows what they're talking about, maybe. What a concept. But Beef, I appreciate your time tonight. I'm going to go watch some Astros wrap up a series. I almost said it with the Guardians tonight. And hope you have a great weekend with your family and hang out with little Slider wherever he is. And enjoy that family time on this holiday weekend. And remember, it's Memorial Day for a reason.
Yes, sir. And thank you for your service. Thanks to everyone in the Seldom Used Reserve College Football Discussion Facebook group, especially Nelson Wilhite for all his help, John Chansey for being a good all-around guy, Uncle John McGee, as always, Sluggo Podcast, and each and every one of you who listens, likes, shares, and participates. On behalf of Marty, Seldom Used Reserve Coleman, I am Casey the Beef Cregan. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll probably see you next week. I might be somewhere else, maybe Mom's basement. We'll see
Talk
you
soon,
next week.
Beef.
Sluggo.
I think we're done here.